right, man. What's going on, Drew?
We're done. Ready
Good,
for this
man.
big slate of basketball.
Everything. Yeah. So Randy's a little banged up right now. He's sick. Be back hopefully on Thursday. But listen, today's college slate. I will say it's the best lineup that I've seen all year for college basketball. Um,
I would definitely agree.
Over the last week or so, I would say the last week, we've seen some teams not show up. So college basketball is starting to show who the real players are, which conferences are. And the game, like a couple weeks ago, I brought up Arkansas. So tonight is put up or shut up
Yeah.
for them. That's the way I look
Oh,
at
yeah.
it. Tonight is they're at home. They have a chance to beat the number one team in the nation, move up 2 slots, and really not just get into the top 25, but jump. If they win that game tonight, I think they jump up to 11 or 12 in the rankings. So I think that
Yeah.
there's
I'd say
a
inside top 15.
yeah, and I think there's a major opportunity there for them. Now, the game that we're all going to wait for is the slugfest, right? We have Kofi Cockburn going up against Purdue's front line. So this is going to be the first time all year that Cockburn's looking up at a guy guarding him, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's not going to be. This is going to be interesting. This is Illinois at Purdue. Purdue is very good at home. Very good at home. So, South Carolina, Kentucky, should be a Kentucky walk. But you got Michigan State hosting Wisconsin. You got there's a game that I like a lot, which is the Wyoming and Utah State game, because I like Wyoming's team this year coming out of that conference. So, Marquette and UConn, another great game. And I think the Clemson North Carolina game could be a very interesting game based on the way the ACC is right now. So when I look up and down that board tonight, I'm like, man, it's like a moving day. They always say that it's moving day on Saturday in golf. I think today's moving day in college basketball. I think it's a big, big deal for the overall season. Have you got a good look at this board, and what are your thoughts on what's going to happen tonight? Because literally,
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
we get. I think the Purdue game is actually like a 9 start. Yeah, it's a 9 Eastern start.
Yeah,
So it's kicking off at 6:30 with UConn Marquette. Then you have the 6:30 of the 7 o'clock games. I mean, the Michigan State Wisconsin game should be a good game. The Iowa West Virginia game is important in the Big 12. That's an important game for both teams. From at least almost like a must win if they want to have a resume at the end of the year, because Iowa State has fallen the last couple weeks, yeah. And Stanford, UCLA, that's almost a must win for UCLA after the bad week they had last week. I mean, UCLA.
huge games everywhere.
Did you? So I follow ASU. I have no idea how they won the game on Saturday. I really don't. I watched that, and the funny thing is, the damn thing had to go to 3 overtimes here on the East Coast, so it got over at like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. They won the game. Somehow, the worst team I've seen in 30 years from ASU just beat a team that I'm very high on, which is UCLA. It's man, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, I know you've been talking down ASU, but ever since you have, they've been so competitive in these games that I just don't see it all.
Well,
Even yesterday
yeah,
with Arizona, they were
they
up
weren't
like
competitive.
13, and then they ended up smoking them. But
they were up
I
13
don't know
because
what
they hit 5
maybe
3-pointers. They had 5 3-pointers in the first 10 minutes. That's why they were up 13.
Yeah.
But outside of that, what happened was ASU has no big man. Jalen Graham is a horror to me. Is the worst big man I've seen for us in a very long time. He's really bad. They have some other guy this year that is not that good. The guy that I thought was going to be very good for him this year is Marion Jackson, who came over from Toledo. He takes crazy shots. He just gets the ball. He just starts hucking it up there. And it's not – look, U of A was in complete control of that game from the 10-minute mark of the first half through the rest of the game. That was the bigs of U of A doing whatever they wanted to against the bigs of ASU. And the guy that's been very consistent for them is not a scorer. It's Kamani Lawrence, who's he's 6'8", and he's a guy that probably on a normal team would be what you call your defensive specialist or whatever. But no, this is a really bad ASU team. And the fact is they got blown out. They got blown out at home. They shouldn't. You don't lose. when you're going up against your rival, you just don't lose by 20 at home. 12 at the end of the game, but it was 20 the whole second half. Um, Typically, you need to be a lot. Okay, if you do that in McHale, but don't come down here and do that. It's like, imagine if Michigan came into Ohio State and beat them by 20. You wouldn't say they're playing good. You'd be like, what are we doing?
Oh yeah,
Right? I mean, you got to defend your
yeah,
home court. You're in your team, Ohio State. My goodness, they're on the precipice. They could go on another run. Like they could be a team to watch, right? I mean, what do you? I mean, your campus must be going pretty happy right now with the way they progress over the last couple weeks.
oh yeah. I think we're on Rutgers tomorrow, but we got that Iowa game canceled yesterday, so we haven't played in. Or we had a game over the weekend. We looked well, so yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, I'm definitely looking forward to the team. Last few weeks, we've definitely made some big steps. Coaching definitely improved late in game. I was surprised in the Purdue game. I feel like Holtman drew up so many plays in the end where we needed to score, and we got a great look, and that definitely surprised me. So I'm definitely heading into prime part of the year with a lot more confidence than I was a month ago.
and you got to listen. I think what we said a couple weeks ago is Liddell has to be the guy that you start talking about. And I'll be honest, the last two games I've seen of them, that's the guy that I'm talking about, right? I mean, he's the guy that wants to close
Yeah,
out games. He's
yeah,
taking shots. Like you said, he's expanded his range, which I wasn't sure if he could do, but it seems like this extra year of school might really pay off for him because if he has been able to expand his range by staying in school an extra year, it's only going to help him in the draft. Listen,
yeah. I mean,
they're a
he
team.
has to as an undersized big. He's got to get that
In
deep ball going.
listen, he's silky smooth on a couple of 3 pointers. In the last game I saw, I think that was the game. I don't remember. He had two threes late in the game, and I thought, boy, okay, there's the guy that
Purdue, I
we
think.
wanted to see. Was it Purdue where he hit two threes late in the game? Where they actually played a good game. They
Yeah,
might have lost late, but they played a really strong game, I think. Um,
yeah,
and then listen, across the board, I think Baylor is starting to be a team that I thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year because of Akinjo. I don't like Akinjo on many teams. I think that Baylor will struggle if they think that Akinjo is your scorer and your go-to guy. He can kind of take out the rest of your team's a game plan on his own. He's in my opinion, he's a selfish point guard. And I think that leaves. I know Kansas. I think they lost. Was it last night? They lost by 2 or 3 to
yeah.
Texas.
To Texas, yeah,
There's nothing wrong with losing to Texas at Texas. That's not a bad loss to me. That's a Big 12 road loss. I mean, that's a fine. That's normal. I still think the Big 12 and the Big 10 are the two best conferences in the country. And I don't know. And I think the SEC is starting to come quick because Kentucky, it seems like it's starting to find their form with the transfers and the young guys starting to play together. And I think Kellen Grady knocking down 2 or 3 pointers a game and getting his 12, 14 points is the solution to what their problems are. That point guard is super fast in Wheeler. I mean, super, super fast. He reminds me of Ty Lawson. Do you remember Ty Lawson from North Carolina?
yeah, yeah.
He was
That,
on the
that was a
championship
while back.
teams.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was on the championship teams like 08, 09. But this guy Wheeler reminds me a lot of Ty Lawson, who used to just fly up and down the court with the ball. Uh, listen, as we get further and further into this, I think March is going to be awesome. I am so literally the next 3 weeks of basketball and then into March is going to be awesome. Is there anybody that's come across your radar in the last week that's kind of surprised you?
wait, you said any team?
Any team, any team come across your radar in
I
the last
mean,
week?
I've been high on Texas Tech.
Yeah,
They have so
yeah.
many players. Kevin O'Banner transferred from uh, whoever beat Ohio State in the tournament last year. I'm blanking on their name, but they just have so many bigs, guards. Bryce Williams is athletic, can knock down the three ball. I've definitely been high on Texas Tech, and I'm also starting to get on the Arkansas trend with you. So I'm so excited for that game tonight. So I think Arkansas is going to pull it off tonight. So
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say
listen,
Arkansas
this
and
is
Texas Tech. In the top three.
the SEC. So one of the things I think that's changed in my mind now is I had Obagi and I had Jonathan Davis as way above everybody. Since I've said that, I think they have both come down a little bit of a notch, and I think some other guys have elevated to close that gap. And I definitely think Kofi is a guy that's starting to close that gap.
Yeah,
Um, I could see Liddell. Listen, if Ohio State keeps playing the way they're playing, I could see Liddell starting to creep up in the conversation. Um, it wouldn't surprise me. I want to see what Note does tonight for Arkansas. Uh, there's just and there's guys on Duke now. Listen, Duke is now starting to play pretty good. They lost on a crazy shot last night, but that win in North Carolina probably led to them, to be quite honest with you, led to a hangover going into that game last night.
yeah,
They look kind of lethargic, and you can't be lethargic against a team that likes to beat you up in Virginia. So the whole scope of college basketball right now, I'm excited for because um, the Pac-12 is going to be very interesting. I was very, very disappointed last week in UCLA. I don't know what I was watching in UCLA. UCLA had no legs against ASU, none. They couldn't shoot. None of them could shoot. You could tell they had no legs. So what I thought maybe their coach was so peeved at the way they played at U of A that he had them doing stairs when they got to. I thought maybe they were all doing stairs all day before the game when they got to
yeah,
Tempe because they had no legs. You can't miss all those jump shots and open shots and think it's not your leg. To me, it was all legs because Juzang, Jules Bernard, Jaquez, all guys that you're used to seeing hit their shots, nothing. They had nothing in that game. Uh, so I don't know. In U of A last night, I thought it showed why they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough in the tournament, man. You can't be that big. You can't have three guys that basically are seven, skyscrapers out there and not be pretty good, especially when you got Mathurin out there knocking down some threes or driving to the hoop. That's a dangerous team in the West. The Big Ten, I think the battle coming down to the Big Ten, I think Ohio State will come up there and challenge people. I think the way that they're playing right now are going to give some teams a heck of a hard time. Um, I still think it's Purdue's to lose. Um, and I think Purdue is a better team over Illinois. I expect Purdue to do pretty well tonight at home. Uh, the Big 12, I think, is going to have a heck of a race. The SEC is going to have a heck of a race. I think the Pac-12 is kind of settled. I think it's going to be U of A's at this point. Um, any thoughts on any of that? Is there any? Do you see any sleepers really that can step up and that we're not even thinking about
um,
right now?
I mean, Big Ten, I'd say Illinois, Purdue, top two.
Yep.
I'd say Ohio State three. As far as like tournament runs, I would maybe give Michigan State a chance. I'm not too sold on Wisconsin. Johnny Davis has not been playing well at all, and outside of him, they just don't have much consistent scoring. Yeah, Pac-10, I'd say USC or not USC, Arizona, UCLA. I still have those two pretty close. I mean, I feel like UCLA is definitely going to bounce back tonight. I think they're at Stanford. I think they'll have a big bounce back game. I feel like that game tonight for them is a big showing for the future for them. But
I
yeah, I
think they
mean, I
have
feel
to.
like there's 15 teams that I could say could definitely win it all this year.
So one of the teams now that I've got to keep a very close eye on, I think there was an injury over the weekend. Gillespie got hurt at the end of the game, and I haven't heard anything about what happened. I don't know how long he's out for. But I really thought that he had that team playing well. Um, and I started to compare him to an old player. And he reminds me of Mark Jackson, but just a better shooter. The way that he walks the ball up the court, very slow, very methodical. He can bat guys down at 6'3" that are point guards, but he has a much better shot than Mark Jackson used to. But that's going to be a big injury. That injury to him is to me is a massive injury. Listen, Providence. I don't know what's going on in Providence, but they're playing great. They're playing great, at least in their
Yeah.
conference, and they have some good out of conference wins. So when you start to look at teams out of conference resume, I started going through it and I started looking at out of conference resumes. Um, UCLA doesn't really have a good out of conference resume. U of A lost to Tennessee on the road, and they lost to UCLA on the road. I think they have a win or two against maybe Marquette. They might have beaten Marquette. Um, the Big Ten has some good wins outside the conference. The Big East, not so much. And so I started
Yeah,
trying to take a look at those head-to-head matchups and what was going to happen, and how the committee is going to start to value resumes. Uh, and I think the Pac-12 is in serious trouble. I think we could be looking at a year with only 3 teams. And I started thinking to myself, wouldn't it be crazy if we could shake things up? And I'm like, wouldn't it be an awesome? I think it would be an awesome rule if you could only put 4 teams in per conference in the tournament. Because what I think it would do
yeah,
is it would make the regular season even more important, but it would also make the postseason tournaments that they have in their conference very important. So, and because I really don't want to see 7 teams from one conference. When I think that there's 3 or 4 teams in the A10, I think there's 3 teams in the Mountain West. Is that where Wyoming plays? Where they're playing Colorado State,
yeah.
Boise State
Colorado
teams
State,
that,
Utah
yeah,
State, maybe.
yeah, and that game tonight to me is important because I still think Boise State still has to play Colorado State twice. I think that's a bad matchup for them. I think Colorado State can actually sweep those 2 teams, and if that's the case, then they're going to fall behind like Utah State and Wyoming and Colorado State. Then all of a sudden, you have Boise State going from first to fourth in 2 weeks. So I just think that there's a lot of parity now across the top 3 or 4 teams in the leagues, where a lot of the top 3 or 4 teams in the leagues can beat the other teams 3 or 4 teams in the league. So I would love to see maybe them putting a cap on that. That would be my suggestion to try to make college basketball better. Um, all right,
Yeah.
man. Let's start taking a look at tonight. What's your key game you're looking for? I think I know this one, but what's your key game?
Um, uh, I I'd say Arkansas Auburn as far as like excitement to watch.
Okay,
Definitely
that
that
one should
one. I'm
probably.
interested to see if Arkansas can defend home court. I saw Arkansas, I think last 3 years is like 61-6 at home. And this year, I'd say this year is up there with last year as far as like best Arkansas teams. So, but I'm definitely excited for that one. After Auburn almost lost to Georgia, like 6-16 Georgia. So I feel like that's
So
that's huge game.
yeah, so I haven't seen a lot of Auburn. I typically don't watch a lot of Bruce Pearl stuff, but this game I'm very looking forward to it because I truly believe. Well, now that Kentucky looks like they're going to be really strong, they're really playing together good. But I really thought Arkansas might have ended up stealing a 1 seed out of that conference in their conference tournament. I don't think they'll catch Kentucky now, but I think they're really strong. I think Arkansas is a really strong team. I like note. I like the fact that they have 4 seniors. Their top 4 scorers are all seniors. They're all guards. They're seniors. That to me is a difference maker because when you're 22 or 23, I don't care who the other team has. You're not intimidated by 18-year-old freshmen. I don't care how good they are. You can go play Kentucky. You can go play Duke that has these incredible freshmen that might be one and dones. When you're 4 years older at that age, you're just not intimidated by them. You're just not. And I think that's going to be a key
Yeah.
element for Arkansas. So I am really looking forward to that. But I'm also listen. All these games, I'm gonna be flipping. I'm gonna have that back button going nuts tonight. I'm gonna have I'm gonna have the
Oh yeah.
Iowa West Virginia game tuned in. I'm definitely gonna have the Wisconsin Michigan State trying to figure that out. I want to see how Kentucky plays in South Carolina. South Carolina is not a good team, but I want to see Kentucky travel and play well on the road. I want to see them shoot well on the road. And Clemson, North Carolina. It's I'm at the point of the year where I'm ready to watch some ACC basketball and see what happens. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm with you on the that game, and then there's a UConn Marquette game because right now my coach of the year is Shaka Smart. If I had to vote a coach of the year, I'd pick Shaka Smart as my coach of the year. So I'm interested to see how they do in UConn. UConn hasn't been playing as good as I think we all thought they'd play this year. But listen, that's a home game for UConn, and it's another big game. So
Yeah,
I just
if
think we're going to
Marquette could
have
win that, that would be amazing. I
that'd be a
I feel like
great.
they've had two road upsets. They beat Villanova on the road, and I think they either
Yeah,
beat Providence or lost by, like, 2, so if they can pull off another huge road win, that's
I
I put
think
them in the
they
top
beat.
10.
Did they beat Wisconsin? I think they beat Wisconsin earlier this year. They may have
Ooh,
beaten Wisconsin. I know they played Wisconsin. I thought they beat Wisconsin. They have another big road. They have another big win outside of Villanova, and I'm trying to remember who it was. But they had a top. They've got two top 10 wins. I know that. Um, and I know they played Wisconsin. I just don't remember if they beat them. But
Wisconsin won that one.
they did. So they
Yeah,
have a big win. I just don't remember who it was. Um, but it was an upset, and it really kind of put them on the radar. And then obviously coming down the stretch, like you said, UCLA and Stanford. To me, it's a must win tonight for UCLA. If they lose that game at home to Stanford, look out. They're going to drop all the way down to like 19 or 20 or something.
yeah,
The interesting game was a St. Mary's and Santa Clara game late. So in a lot of ways, Gonzaga needs St. Mary's to go out and start winning some games, right? Gonzaga needs St. Mary's
yeah,
to boost their resume so their stats older. Because right now, I'll be honest, if I was seeding, I would have Gonzaga on the 2 line. I wouldn't give them a 1 line. I just don't think. Although they beat UCLA, did they beat Villanova? They may have beaten Villanova. They beat UCLA. I think they beat Villanova, but I wouldn't have them on a 1 line right now. It's to me
yeah,
it's as different is if Alabama has one loss or two losses in the SEC, and some team coming out of Louisville has one loss, and you want to rank them higher playing in their conference over Alabama. To me, it's the same type of thing. So, listen, I'm excited about it. It sounds like you are too. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Um, but we have some other things going on in the app this week as well. We have the NFL props tournament, which we're going to get into a lot of on Thursday, but we do have props in there for this game and head to head props. Have you taken a look at any of those props and do you see anything you might like?
for the Super Bowl or
Yeah, for the Super Bowl. First of
okay,
all,
you're breaking up a little bit.
first of all, with the
Go
Super
ahead.
Bowl, I mean, we got to talk about the fact that you're a Bengals fan, yeah? Lifelong Bengals fan.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm
Okay.
so excited.
So you've got Burrow, yeah? You got Burrow happening. And not only do you have Burrow happening, you have Chase. So before the Kansas City game, before it, I said, could you imagine if Burrow has to go up against the Rams defensive line and Aaron Donald? If I'm Burrow,
Yeah.
are they putting in a whole new offensive scheme this week to say get out of the pocket, run away from Aaron Donald? What do you? I mean, because he literally could have 6 sacks himself against. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. I've looked into Super Bowl odds, and I was looking at Aaron Donald. He was like plus 2,000 as soon as it opened. I was definitely intrigued by that. It's definitely, I think it's like 1,200 now, but yeah, I'm definitely worried about that. Bengals got to establish their own game early because if the Titans are having 9 sacks against you and you have Aaron Donald and Von Miller coming at you, then I don't
You're in
know if you can
trouble,
top
man.
9, but I won't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the coolest thing about Burrow. He's come back off an ACL, right? His problem was
Yeah.
ACL, right? So watching what he's doing to me is beyond it's beyond explainable. I think it's unbelievable what he's done this year. Not just that, but how he's handled himself with the community, building up, the Bengals, helping build the Bengals organization. Everything that's gone on for their fan base, everything that's gone on for the region, I think is phenomenal. I'm rooting for the Bengals. I really hope they pull this off. I think I think majority of people are rooting for the Bengals.
Yeah.
With
It's
that
hard not
said,
to.
I think the line is way too low. I think the line is way too with the fact that you have one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen in a Super Bowl going up against one of the best defensive pass rush lines. I'm trying to figure out what game plan they can implement where Burrow doesn't get sacked 7, 8, 9 times. because you have to throw the ball on those guys, and they're going to have Jalen Ramsey. My guess is up on the line of scrimmage playing bump and run to make sure that they can't throw quick outs. So now you have to go over the top. What are they? I don't know what they're going to do. First of all, is your tight end back? Have you? What's the word on that
Yeah,
tight
he's
end?
supposed to play. Yep.
He's supposed to
Usama's
play.
supposed to play. Yep.
All right, so that could be a huge help. Outside of throwing a lot of screen passes to whatever side Von Miller lines up on, you throw screen passes over the top of his head because he's going to get to the quarterback, and I think you have to throw screen passes behind him. Um, I just don't know if as a disciplined bettor, if I can bet, I want to play the Bengals. I want the Bengals to win. I am scared to shit that Burrow is going to get hammered by that defensive line. Hammered.
Yeah. I feel like the
I
Bengals gotta do 3 things. You gotta establish a run, obviously. I mean, you can't drop back to pass every single play.
yeah,
And then Burrow's so good at 5 wide and just spreading everything out and making a quick decision. So, I mean, you
yeah,
can't sit back in the pocket for 5 seconds. You gotta step back 3 seconds, get it out. And
yeah.
then you gotta bring in another tight end. If the pass rush is a problem, you just gotta block 6 every play.
All
I mean,
right.
because
So
you
where's the
can't
viewing
just keep
parties?
getting destroyed
We're,
on
we're,
3rd and
I'm
long.
assuming Ohio State has to have major viewing parties going on there, right? Like half the bars in
Oh,
town
yeah,
have to have
definitely.
huge viewing parties, right? For this, where are you going?
Yeah, we were trying to
Where,
rent
where,
some
where?
out, but
No, you didn't. You didn't
no, it's first come, first serve for the Super Bowl.
really. Nothing
Yeah.
going on campus, like the middle of
I
campus,
was
not
thinking
having a
about
big
going down to
TV.
Cincinnati, but
Really?
what?
Nothing going on in the middle of campus where you're renting out stuff in the middle of campus.
I mean, there's definitely some places, but you can't, like, make a reservation. It's just first come, first serve. So, like, if you wanna go there, you're gonna have to get there at least an
Why
hour
aren't
before
you
kick,
doing it?
I'd say.
Why aren't you stirring up
I
the pot? Stir up the pot.
I am, I am.
Okay, you
I
got to
am.
do it. I mean, this is your team.
Yeah.
I don't even think you were around when Icky was doing his shuffle. So this has to be like the first thing you've
Oh,
seen
no.
in your
Yeah,
lifetime, right?
I've watched no good Bengal football. I've watched Carson Palmer and Bushmanzada and Ocho Cinco. That's about the only somewhat competent Bengal football I've seen in my life.
So when you first became a Bengal fan, was he Chad Johnson or was he Ocho Cinco at that point?
I think he was Chad Johnson
All
for a
right.
few years,
Yeah,
and then I remember he made the switch, but yeah.
man. My goodness, man.
And
I
then I
think you
had the
guys got to get
Andy
it.
Dalton years where
Ugh, not good.
we blew that game in against Pittsburgh because Vontez Burfict just blew him up, and I think Jeremy Hill fumbled the possession before, which we were just running the clock out, so
So
it was
Vontez
bad.
Perfect is a Sun Devil, and
Oh, I didn't know that.
went to ASU. Was suspended 2 or 3 times from the ASU football team for personal fouls and for
Wow.
leading the Pac-12 in penalty yardage. He was a guy that the other team used to like. The commentators would talk about the fact that the game plan sometimes for the other team would be to talk trash to Vontez Burfict after the whistle to see if he would
Oh my.
retaliate. And they used to bait him.
Wow.
He literally I mean, he was a problem at ASU. He was an Erickson guy. So in Erickson, when he played, um, they led the Pac-12 in penalties 2 years in a row. Yeah, when Vontez Burfict was on the Sun Devils, and literally he led the Pac-12 in personal fouls every year.
Wow.
He went from freshman being considered to be a top 5 pick the following year to dropping out of the first 2 rounds because of his temperament to having to come back a junior season. And I don't even know when you guys picked him. Somebody picked him up in the 4th, 5th, or 6th round. He didn't go when he was as fast as like Ray Lewis. They thought they used to compare him to Ray Lewis. And man, watching him, he was incredible, but obviously he's very costly player. But listen,
Yeah.
this year's
I don't believe the argument where a all football players are, like, promoted and lives on violence, but Vontez Burfict definitely fits that category. You can just tell he wants to hit people, he wants to hurt people. You could tell that from the
his
beginning, and I wasn't even surprised when he made that play in the playoffs.
his father. So this is a crazy story. so his father, biological father is in prison, and was in a gang. His mother was a bus driver that remarried. The guy that she remarried turned her into a prostitute, and he ended up being the pimp. There was a whole thing. There's a whole thing on Vontez Burfict and how he was.
Wow.
Yeah, just
I've not
it's a
heard that.
crazy. It's not a good upbringing, but yeah, I just remember him on ASU, man, and you could just count on in the very clutch time. The other team would talk a lot of trash to him after the whistle, and he would just blow up. But so this is got to be I mean, you got to have big plans. You got to be ready to go, and it should be a day long party, right? I'm assuming that the whole
Oh,
state.
yeah.
And I saw where you guys get off the following day. They're giving all of Cincinnati, like the kids don't have to go to
Yeah,
school.
Cincinnati's off. I know.
That's
And they announced
that's
that so early too. It's not like people were arguing it and then they took it off. They announced that like the day after they made the Super Bowl.
that's awesome. I think that's great
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think that's going to be awesome. And so we do have a bunch of props in there that we're going to be looking into, really a lot more on Thursday. We're going to be breaking down brackets for the Super Bowl on Thursday. Um, but one more thing that I want to get into before we get out of here today is golf. Um, so we have the Phoenix Open that we just put in there, and now we're gonna be doing golf every week because I love the Phoenix Open. I'm surprised to see some of the players that are playing in it, like Rom. Rom's going to be in it. JT is going to be in it. Matsuyama. I don't know if Phil's a hometown guy there, considering he went to ASU. People love him there. But yeah, there's a lot of great golfers that are going to be playing in this tournament this weekend. And as we get ready, like I'm already looking at the Masters. I'm already preparing. Like when I start to see the Masters commercials, I start to get fired up because I love the
Oh,
Masters.
yeah.
Um, but this one I've been to a bunch of times. And although they've tried to quiet the crowd down a little bit, I anticipate now one more year outside of COVID that it's going to get a little louder and have a lot more attendees. I don't know what they're letting in this year. Um, but I like the matchups we have in there. There's some cool matchups. Like we do have Rom against, I think, JT. We got Finau. Finau. First of all, Finau could be the sleeper in this whole thing, I think. Have you had a chance to take a look at some of these matchups?
Yeah, I've looked a little bit. I mean, for me, I just find it hard to I mean, I guess in head-to-heads, you could definitely go Finau, but for me, it's just so hard for me to bet a tournament on strictly Finau to win because he's blown multiple leads where I'm like, "Oh, this is his time, this is his time," and he just
Yeah.
doesn't pull it off.
Yep.
I'm looking towards I did a little bit of research, and it seems like this tournament, it's important to drive the ball straight and far, but it's more important or it's less important to be a great putter because Matsuyama, I believe, has won last 5 years. Gary Woodland, and neither of them are that good of
Yep.
putters. So, I mean, I feel like that leaves the field pretty open. But I feel like Shoffley. Shoffley's my. If I had to make one pick, I'm taking Shoffley.
Taking
I think he
Shoffley.
was second. I think he was second a few years ago. In his last 5 years, 4 or 5 years, he's been top 20 every year. So he definitely shows up in this tournament. I, I mean, I think he's plus 2,000 to win it all, but I'd also take him in a head to head. His head to head matchup is Kepka. So Kepka is obviously like DeChambeau. If he's not driving the ball straight, then he could go anywhere.
No kidding. So a couple things that stand out in this. Rom is a Sun Devil, and so he's going to have a massive cheering section there. That is a big home field advantage for former Sun Devils. They love their Sun Devils there. Two things stand out outside of that. Number one, List is playing and Varner's playing. Both guys just coming off, pretty cool wins. Uh, and List, I think we talked about that List pot from that List. Who did he beat? He beat Zalatoris 2 weeks ago. So I think he's going to be riding high. Um, I like Matsuyama, but the thing about that course, here's the thing about that course. There's a par five that on the 15th where a lot of guys get into trouble and they lose a lot of strokes. Everybody goes for it in two. and it's almost an island green, right? And so going for an island
Yeah.
green in two has a lot of danger in it. But then you come back, and the 16th hole, if you were just out there playing it, is a simple hole. But 16th hole is the rowdiest hole in golf. And so it becomes not the easiest hole because they literally boo you the minute you hit the ball. If it doesn't look like it's going in the hole from the tee shot, they're booing you. And so and you can hear people when you're coming up that 15th hole, you can hear the crowd going nuts. This
Yeah.
was the hole that Tiger got a hole in one, and I was there for this, and everybody threw their beer cans on the green. I mean, there was a video of beer cans just flying onto the green after his hole in one. People
Wow.
throwing their plastic cups and beer cans. So they stopped having
You were
beer
at
in
that?
cans. I was there. Yeah, this was yeah. So this
Wow.
back in the 90s. So yeah. So I was probably there 7 or 8 years in a row in the 90s, and then probably three more times in the early 2000s. So this is a fantastic event. It's a lot of fun. And Saturday night's the big party night. You go to the Eagle's Nest or Bird's Nest, whatever it's called, and then it always finishes about 2 hours before the Super Bowl kicks off. So it is a lot of fun. I don't like ramen this for some reason. I'm with you. I like Schauffele a lot, but there's a guy that keeps coming. I don't know why. I've got a crazy inclination on Webb Simpson in this one. I've got this gut feeling that Webb Simpson's going to have one heck of a tournament this weekend, and I don't know why. So I'm going to play Webb Simpson. Is who I'm playing this weekend. But I could see Schauffele having a big one. But the also another great
You
guy that could
know,
watch out for is Answer. What do you think about
okay,
Answer?
I definitely could give. I think you could give it a run for the money. I mean, he's been up there in a few tournaments as of late, but I don't know. I just feel like this one's definitely open. I'm with you as well. I don't know about Rowan that much. At least with the odds or pick 'em value, I would definitely go the other way because I feel like golf is you don't want to take the top one or two favorite. At least for
Yeah.
me, I look down for more value plays. So Webb Simpson and Answer would definitely be two of those ones.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make some picks tomorrow on a bracket. We'll probably post them on TikTok, probably post them on a couple different places tomorrow. I'm really going to break them down tomorrow a lot more than get. I want to get into it because I'm looking forward to it. Listen, we're talking about Super Bowl weekend. We're talking about one of the best college basketball weeks, and we're talking about the Phoenix Open. It's a great time to be a sports bettor. It's a great time to be a sports fan. And if you're a
Yeah.
Bengals fan, it is a great time to be an NFL to be a Bengals fan. I mean, listen, your whole week this week uh could be, vacation. I don't know. What's school like? Is everybody going to school right now, or is everybody pre-partying already?
I mean, I'd say Ohio State has a lot more Browns fans than Bengals,
Really?
which, I mean, as you said earlier, it's hard to root against the Bengals, but these Browns fans can surprise me so much. Like, oh, 2-0 this year, 2-0. Our second game, we
Wait a second. Are you saying that the Browns fans are trying to dish it out? I think we may have lost him, but it sounds like he's trying to tell us that the Browns fans are trying to dish out stuff to the Bengals fans, which can't be right. At the end of the day,
start
I
our
don't think
backup quarterback.
I think we lost you there for a second, Drew.
Yeah.
You lost. You were
Okay,
breaking
I
up
think
just
I'm back now.
yeah. So you were just breaking up a
But
little
yeah,
bit.
I was saying, am I good now?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I was saying, I feel like there's more Browns fans here at Ohio State, and all of them are so mad to see us in the Super Bowl because they thought this was their year. Baker get healthy, come back, great
this is their
defense, double
year.
run game. So I've been hearing so much talk from them, even these weeks, because they swept us in the regular season. They're like, "Oh, we own you." I'm like, "Yeah, you're just mad that you guys didn't even make the playoffs. Your
Yeah,
season was over by week 15."
yeah.
So
Congratulations on
they
winning two
definitely
games.
are happy to see us there, but it's
So
an underdog story.
what does a Bengals fan at OSU do? I mean, there's got to be large Bengal groups getting together for this, right? Where you don't have to just go and sit with a bunch of Browns fans in a sports bar, right? There's Bengal
Yeah,
viewing
yeah.
parties, right?
I think we're going to a bar in downtown Columbus where there'll probably be a few hundred Bengals fans there, nice TVs. So
Yeah, there you
yeah, we
go.
can escape the Browns fans there, have a
That's
good time.
awesome.
Hopefully get a close game. I feel pretty good about it. I'm definitely taking the 4.5. I feel good about it.
Is it up to
Stafford
four and
has
a half
not
right
looked
now?
that well. Yeah,
Is this up to four
I
and a
just looked
half?
before. It's 4.5. Yeah,
That it opened at I think it opened at 3.5.
yeah.
The very first night it opened at 3.5. It jumped to 4 before morning, and now it's up to 4.5. I think everybody's like the same mindset I do. I want to bet the Bengals, but it's so hard to figure out what are they going to do against that Rams defensive line. I just it's not that you're afraid of the Rams offense because if I'm a Bengals player, if I'm a Bengals fan, I'm looking at the Rams offense saying we can defend that. We can hold them to 17 points. But what are we going to do against Miller, Donald, that whole defensive line, and what are we going to do against them? That's what I'm worried about.
I mean, I feel like what Tom Brady put up 31 against them. Jimmy Garoppolo put up what was it? At least 20, I think. Was
Yeah,
it 27-20?
yeah,
So I mean, I feel like if these teams are putting up numbers against them, Rams obviously have a. If you look at it just player base, they have so many stars on their defense, but I feel like they can definitely be beat. I mean, our defense has a bunch of no names that no one knows about. Eli Apple is talked about as one of the worst corners in the league, and now I think in man-to-man coverage, he has a better grade than Jalen Ramsey, which I'm not sure how accurate these like corner grades are, but I mean the whole Bengals defense is showing up, so I got hope.
all right. So right now, you're picking the Super Bowl would be the Bengals plus the 4.5. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have I put Rams future. I think it was week 9, like plus 700. So it's a win-win for me. So, but I'm definitely gonna hedge a little bit, go Bengals a little bit. But
Okay.
I
So
mean,
if you had,
I'd love to see Odell and Stafford get a ring too. So even if the Bengals don't win, it's a great run, bright future.
yep.
We were like bottom 5 this year is what people projected us as. So
All right.
definitely turn the
So
wheels a lot.
let's do this. We're gonna get You got one pick today on the college hoops board. What are you taking? Where's your money going?
I love this one. I got it last night at 1.5. I think it's at 2.5 now, but West Virginia minus 1.5. Iowa
Okay.
State got, I think they lost by like 10 to Kansas, but it was not a competitive game. Then the
Yep.
game after they lose by 20. They just have not impressed me at all. They struggle to score. West Virginia's been competitive in all their games, even Texas Tech. I think Baylor, they lost by like 3. So I feel like West Virginia at home getting only 1.5. I feel like that's a great value pick. So I'm loving that one.
Bobby Huggins is going to coach his team through it, huh? That's
Yep,
what you're going. You're going with Bobby Huggins at home.
yep. I
You
love it.
know, all right. All right. So mine is in the slugfest, and I've been looking for this game all. I'm looking forward to seeing the team play the way that I think they are, and I think after this, I think everybody's going to look at them as maybe the best team in college basketball. Uh, I'm actually going to be on Purdue tonight, so
Okay.
I love Purdue. And not only that, I love Purdue at home. And I think it's going to get away. I think it's going to get away from Illinois. I think Purdue wins in double digits. The 5.5 that you got to lay is not scaring me at all. I think I think that Frazier on the road won't shoot as good. I just think overall Purdue at home, Ivy that front line with Edie, Trevion Williams. I think Stefanovic might knock down 18 tonight.
Hmm.
I love Purdue at home. I do.
Yep.
I love Purdue at home and winning it by double digits. And you got to lay 5.5. But I love Purdue. So listen, we got a lot to talk about coming in on Thursday. We'll recap tonight's great board. I say good luck on West Virginia tonight. I'll be watching it
Yeah.
and rooting for you. And I will say that you'll get an invite tomorrow for some brackets for golf, because that will actually be teed off before we do our. They'll tee that off Thursday morning
Yep.
before we do our podcast Thursday evening, and then Thursday evening we'll talk a little college basketball, but the majority of it's going to be about the Super Bowl. So Thursday night we'll be breaking down our Super Bowl brackets. We'll cover a little college basketball, but it's going to be all Super Bowl and Super Bowl brackets. And we'll probably do a little update on what's going on in the Phoenix Open. Cool.
Perfect.
All right, man. Enjoy it. Another
All
great
right.
show, and we'll be back here on Thursday.
Get your money and run, run, run.